Remember this moment? In April of 2019, flash floods came down Missouri Flat Creek and overwhelmed the stream bed from Jack in the Box all the way to downtown. Some portions of North Grand Avenue were covered with water for several hours, leaving several people stranded in buildings with no way out. But that's where ingenuity came to the rescue. Some Pullman firefighters commandeered a front-end loader and drove it through the floodwaters and rescued the stranded residents. The footage made national headlines and was a heartwarming example of small-town quick thinking during a stressful situation. But there was just one problem. This tractor wasn't authorized to operate in floodwaters. Notice the people in the bucket? They're not wearing life jackets. And nobody with top-line authority authorized the rescue, making this entire operation illegal. Now, I think we can all agree that the state government handing out fines for Good Samaritans is dumb. And we should never let bureaucracy stop neighbors from doing the right thing. But for obvious reasons, the city of Pullman is not going to designate this earth mover as an official rescue vehicle in the city's flood plan. At least, not on paper. Flash forward to this week's natural gas outage. 60,000 residents lost heat during cooler weather. And plenty of people online were demanding to know why the city didn't have an official warming shelter. Now, there's a simple answer and a more complicated answer. But let's start with the simple one. The reason the city of Pullman didn't open a city-owned warming shelter is for the same reason that people might have wanted one in the first place. They run on natural gas. In my experience, we tend to have 2 or 3 power outages a year during the winter and the spring. But this is the first time in my 2 decades on the Palouse that we've had a gas outage. Typically, natural gas is the most reliable source of heat during the emergencies because the underground pipes are immune from major weather events. This is why our city buildings are not equipped with the expensive and redundant electric heating needed to stay operational when the gas fails. You can't open a warming shelter if your building is also cold. Now, there is certainly a second conversation to be had about emergency supplies of heating fuel and having spaces that are equipped to handle emergencies like this. But that doesn't change the fact that the city of Pullman does own 2 buildings that otherwise could be used as emergency shelters during extreme weather. The City Hall Building and Recreation Center and Neal Public Library downtown. In the event of emergency, these spaces could be opened and staffed with volunteers to take people in who need shelter. And I have no doubt that that's exactly what would happen if the circumstances were to allow for it. But let's move on now to the more complicated reason. It turns out that there are rules that are triggered as soon as you designate an official warming station or shelter. You must have a certain number of staff on hand. Those staff have to be trained. There's background checks required ahead of time. If you're sheltering minors, you must have specific systems of accountability and covering to make sure abuse isn't likely to happen inside government buildings. All of this takes time and money, and recruiting volunteers to stand by for scenarios that don't come along very often is difficult. And in the near future, we very may well decide to do this as a community. But in the meantime, the people of Pullman rallied together to support each other. The university opened the Cub to anyone who needed to get out of the cold, and the Chinook Rec Center was open with warm water and showers to the entire community. I saw many neighbors offering their wood stoves and electric ranges for people getting warm and preparing meals. Some even opened their homes for people to take hot showers. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I do want to posit that it's okay for multiple community institutions to work together in times of need, and that city government does not need to be the end-all in an emergency. We're blessed to have a major state college in our city limits, and I'm very glad for facilities such as the Cub and Chinook. If we were located anywhere else in rural eastern Washington, we would be far worse off. There's going to be plenty of meetings to talk about what went wrong and how we can do better next time. Facilities will be upgraded, more backup generators installed. We might even get some showers in the city rec center. But first, let's take a moment and acknowledge all the good that happened in the past 5 days. The pipe was ruptured at noon on Wednesday and was dug up, trimmed, spliced, and reburied by late Thursday night. Avista marched utility technicians in from as far away as the Midwest to relight up to 900 homes per hour, working from the early mornings to 10 o'clock at night. Our city government acted swiftly during an otherwise helpless situation to file the necessary declarations to qualify for state and federal support, paving the way for relief funding for those most affected by the outage. We saw hundreds of people reach out and offer to care for their neighbors, and many more got to receive it. And all of this happened without a single death from exposure or major injury that I know of. This is remarkable, and it shows the resilience of the people of Pullman and makes me proud to be a Pullman resident. There will be plenty to learn from the events of the last few days, but just like the Grand Avenue flood of 2019, let's remember the heroism of the moment and not dwell on the bureaucracy that slowed things down. Thanks for watching.